Hello and welcome to another TLDR US video. A few months ago, we asked our audience what the best flag in the world was, and after over 1 million votes, we ended up with this video which ranks the best and worst flags in the world. We're not going to spoil the results or tell you where the US lands, but that video is linked down below if you want to find out for yourself. Anyway, that got us thinking. The US has some pretty iconic and globally recognized states, probably more so than any other country in the world. So which of them has the best flag? You can probably see where we're going from here. We asked our audience to score the US state flags, and today we have the results. So let's find out which state flags people prefer and which scored highest and the lowest. Before we do, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel for more US updates from us, covering topics like why the US minimum wage is lower than global averages, to whether the Paris Climate Accord really works, and how drug money helped keep America's economy alive during the 2008 recession. All of those videos are linked down below. Thanks so much for your support. Okay, so before we get to the leaderboard, let's explain how this survey works, because I know we'll get questions about the methodology if we don't explain it. Respondents to the survey were asked some demographic information to help us calibrate the analysis, and then they were presented with a block of 20 flags. They'd be asked to rate each of these flags on a 1 to 5 scale, working their way through all 20 flags in the block. Once they were done, they could either submit their results or keep going. If they chose to keep going, they'd be presented with another random block of 20 flags, and so on. In total, nearly 8,000 people voted in the survey, casting over 350,000 individual rankings. With this data, we wanted to find out which type of flags people preferred. The obvious split was between the ones which are essentially a big blue expanse with a crest dotted in the middle, to those which are, well, actual flag designs. You might pick up a slight preference from my tone there, and it seems that the audience shares this, with the blue flags scoring an average of 2.16, compared to the non-blue flags which averaged out at 2.77. Blue flags with a crest might not be the ultimate cardinal sin of flag design though, at least according to you guys, with flags containing the state's name scoring even lower at 2.06. Worse still, and this surprised me from American voters, were flags featuring the iconic eagle, scoring an average of 1.97, which is incredibly low considering the lowest possible score is 1. While the American eagle might be surprisingly unpopular, the US does still love a star, with designs featuring it ranking higher than those boasting a cross. Finally, looking at the colour palette, here's how the common colours scored, with those prominently featuring black and red scoring higher than others. Okay, so with all of that information rattling around inside your head, I'm interested to know what you think the top 5 state flags will be. Without cheating or skipping forward, jump into the comments and place your guess below. I'll give you 5 seconds, but unless you're super quick, you might want to pause the video. So let's start at the bottom of the list and run through the 10 worst flags in the Union. The 10th worst flag, as rated by you, is Minnesota. 9th is South Dakota, then Virginia, Oregon, and West Virginia. The 5th worst flag in the US was Kansas, and 4th, Delaware. So into the medal positions, and picking up the bronze with an average score of only 1.67 is Idaho. Silver goes to Kentucky with 1.66, and the gold, the worst state flag in the US, goes to Wisconsin. So, sorry to all of those states, but your flags clearly didn't vibe with our audience. Now we know which flags take these spots, let's start our way working upwards until we get the 10 best flags. So these middle flags in order from worst to best are Maine, Illinois, North Dakota, Nebraska, Michigan, Connecticut, Montana, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Washington, Utah, Nevada, Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, Oklahoma, Florida, Louisiana, Arkansas, Iowa, North Carolina, Missouri, Georgia, Rhode Island, Wyoming, Hawaii, Alabama, Indiana, and then in 11th place, Maryland. Finally, we've reached the top 10 flags in the US as voted for by you. And at 10, we have Tennessee with a score of 3.27. followed by South Carolina scoring 3.30. California comes next with 3.55, then Ohio averaging 3.63, and in 6th place we have Mississippi scoring 3.65. Let's see if your guess in the comments is correct as we enter the top 5. In 5th place with a score of 3.68 is Alaska. Scoring 3.76 and getting 4th is Arizona. In bronze with a score of 3.79 is Colorado. Then picking up silver with an average score of 3.90 is New Mexico. But winning the overall ranking with a 3.94 average was Texas. Did you guess correctly? It'll be interesting to see how your expectations compared with reality. But that's not where our analysis ended. We wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the data to see if there were any interesting revelations that we could uncover. Let's talk about the obvious, where the blue background flags rated. Well, the highest scoring of those more standard crest on blue background flags was Louisiana in 22nd, but all of these other designs cluttered up the bottom half with a pretty clear divide between the two types of flags. One thing we wanted to see was how different states rated their own flags. Luckily, during the data collection stage, we asked respondents which state or country they came from. So we've isolated the people from the states to compare their scores to non-residents, to see how much people overrate their own flag. The most overrated flag in the Union is that of Rhode Island, which its residents scored at 4.75, 1.63 above the non-Rhode Islander response. Making up the top 5 most overrated flags, you'll also find Iowa, Hawaii, Arkansas, and Kentucky. On the other end of the spectrum, which states underrated their own flags, with the residents giving their state's flag a lower score than everyone else? Well, only one state actually did this, and that was Idaho, whose residents gave their flag a measly 1.59, 0.039 points lower than the non-Idahoan score. While they were the only ones to actually underrate their own flag, the residents of New Hampshire, Michigan, Minnesota, and Massachusetts all overrated their own flags less than most states did. If you took the survey, you might remember some more unusual flags being polled too. Some of them weren't too far off the beaten path, with us asking our audience what they thought of major territories like Washington DC and Puerto Rico. But there were also some slightly more unusual ones, with us also including a bunch of very unusual US territories. Let's start with the two I just mentioned and potential candidates for statehood, something we discuss in another video, which is linked below. Of the two, Puerto Rico scores higher, with a 3.627 to Washington DC's 3.247. Both are impressive scores though, and if they were put alongside the other states, they'd fall into 8th and 12th place. What about these more rogue options though? Well, going through in order, these are the flags of Howard Island, Palmyra Atoll, American Samoa, Wake Island, Johnston Island, the US Virgin Islands, Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands, Navassa Island, and Kingsman Reef. That's also the order they score, with some actually landing pretty competitive scores on the overall leaderboard. Even if you're American, you might not know all of these places, with a whole bunch of them being unpopulated territories, something we discuss in another video, which is also linked below. Because they're unpopulated, a bunch of these flags aren't official and designed by a whole variety of people. Most notable amongst these is the flag of Howard's Island. Embarrassingly for the majority of states, this uninhabited island with an unofficial flag actually lands in 11th place, smashing a whole bunch of other states. So that's ultimately how the US state flags rank. Do you agree with our audience averages? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you want your chance to rank some flags, we're going to do the same thing again for British county flags. So click the link below and cast your vote now. Also, be sure to check out the video we did comparing every flag in the world to see where the iconic stars and stripes lands. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified every time we release a new video. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible. And if you want to see your name at the end of videos, then you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that's in the description.